Testing 3, 2, 1. Desperate Women, Video 2. Most of us remember this story out of Fayetteville, North Carolina on December 16th, 2009. The case was heartbreaking. It involved Shania Davis. Her father trusted his daughter's mother that acted like she wanted to be back in her daughter's life. The father knew she was battling a drug problem, but she had gotten a job and she said she was rehabilitating herself. So when Antoinette got her daughter for the weekend, I believe, or a couple of weeks, she would pass him off to a friend that she knew, Mario McNeil. He was only to have sex with the 5-year-old girl to clear a $200 drug debt. And we actually all saw the CCC footage of Mario carrying Shania inside a motel room. Whatever happened inside that hotel room, Shania was raped and she was murdered, and her body was dumped on the side of the road. Both of these two tried to cover up the crime. I remember Annette Davis was even blaming a current boyfriend she was seeing, saying he might have had something to do with it, and he was actually arrested. And then finally, it would go back to McNeil, who was the one that was responsible for all of this. Thank goodness for that CCC footage. The crime, again, was just terrible. To make it so bad, Antoinette Davis only got 17 years for allowing this man to have sex with her 5-year-old daughter that she wasn't even taking care of, but allowing this to go down. She will actually probably be released in 2027. That is not even far from now. We are in the month of March 2021. This month is actually almost over. This woman could possibly be out in another 6.5, 7 years. She will be out. And Mario McNeil, he is serving his sentence on death row. And we all know how death row works. They should just have killed him immediately if that was the case. But he may sit there until he gets old and gray, which is another sad part. This girl only lived 5 years, only to be passed to someone for a drug debt and ultimately murdered. Shania Davis. Lansing, Michigan. Now, this happened in November 2012. Somebody did report this case to CPS, but it would take 3 months for them to even start the investigation and take the kids away from Sabrina Giller. And it would also take another 5 years before this family would receive an inkling of justice of what happened. Gillard's daughter had refused to talk about the things that her mother's boyfriend was doing to her. His name was Ryan Cooper. He was 36 at the time. To make things worse, he had a brother, Jordan Cooper, who was raping her from time to time as well. The mother knew what was going on. She confided in a female friend of whom she is romantically involved with. The female friend, of course, told her to go to the police. Giller begged her friend not to tell, stating that she would lose her children. The friend would even say Giller was jealous of her daughter. Giller actually said her daughter, quote, liked the abuse, unquote. Giller had even brought her 9-year-old daughter sex toys so she would stop, quote, messing, unquote, with her boyfriend, Ryan Cooper. That is something. They would actually make this young girl watch them have sex, and Ryan Cooper would force the young girl to perform acts on him after. I also read that the Coopers have a long generational history of sex abuse within the family and incest. Ryan's girlfriend said that ex-girlfriend said that she knew about a lot of this, and he was a sex offender as well. He had got indicted on a sex offense against a 13-year-old girl that he did do some time for, I believe in 2011. Jordan is a sex offender. He had molested up to 4 girls. I mean, it's unbelievable. So basically, these brothers come from this within their family. So that's who they are, and they carried it on. So they have a lot going on. They have a lot of young girls who, unfortunately, their cases weren't taken serious, so they didn't get any time for that. But they still exist, and they still know what happened. Giller, she was only sentenced to 4 to 15 years for allowing this to happen and not protecting her daughter. She actually did some type of plea agreement, which is really sickening because I feel that that is not long enough. Jordan Cooper got 4 to 30 years. He also had raped another girl, and I believe that the sentences are running concurrent, which is also terrible. But hopefully he will do the entire 30 years and knock it out at all. This story was just really sordid. It's a lot to it. That's why I gave you their exact names. If you want to look it up, it's horrible. Just horrible. Thank goodness that this girl has a biological father in her life. He says that she is still suffering to this day. 6 years of sexual torment and abuse by your mother and her boyfriend and her boyfriend's brother. She's been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, suicidal thoughts, borderline personality disorder. This little girl was struggling. It's been some years, so hopefully she's a little bit better, but it's going to take a while. Look at what happened. It's terrible. Very terrible. So thank goodness her father is supporting her in every way. These women do not know if these babies and children don't die at the hands of their mother and whoever they're allowing to do this to, these kids take on a great deal of heartache and torment throughout their lives. It takes a while for these kids to even function right. They really do fuck up these children's lives. It's terrible. It's terrible. And I wish this girl well. And again, I'm so happy that she does have a supportive father that's trying to see her through this. Kissimmee, Florida, October 2020. Keene Pupo, 32, and his wife, Morgan Keene, 27, are in jail. Morgan was allowing Pupo to have sex with her 7-year-old daughter. They said they were, quote, trying to teach her where babies come from, unquote. During every sex act, Keene was there watching. Keene has a friend who works for an obstetrician. She would text her friend and ask her how to heal a vaginal tear. The friend thought she was speaking about her own situation. She told her a few things, but added to go to the doctor. The friend would check on her about the situation, and she basically said, quote, LOL, Argelo took care of it, unquote. So this husband stitch this little girl's vagina tear up with a sewing kit. The victim would confide in a caretaker. I actually put the picture of the little girl out, sketching her face out, because people need to see how big this firefighter is compared to this little small girl. It's sickening, it's terrible, it's disgusting. But this little girl got the courage to tell the caretaker what was happening and what she was being made to do. The little girl even spoke of how her mother helped clean up blood, make her take a bath, and go to sleep. So when the police get a hold of what's going on, now Keene said she was being physically abused and she was scared of her husband and wanted him out the house. Keene said she's partially has lost vision in her left eye after being punched by her husband. And when she was arrested, she was 2 weeks pregnant, and she said her husband had kicked her in the ribs around November 4th when she told him about the pregnancy. Pupo is on administrative leave without pay. He's a firefighter, and then I also heard that that firefighting job had relieved him of his duties completely. In another article, I heard that this so-called firefighter is an ex-porn star. So it's a lot going on with these people. And this woman, Morgan Keene, she has another 2 little girls. So it's 3 very tiny girls that live there with her in the house. So I'm so glad that the children were taken away and safe now. And I'm so glad that this little girl spoke up, because she saved herself and her siblings' story is horrible. This is a case out of Los Angeles, California, March 2019, and I was watching this case like many. Her name was Trinity Jones. She was only 9 years old, and she was enduring a great deal of physical and emotional abuse at the hands of her mother and her mother's boyfriend. Before she died, beknownst to her family, Trinity, her mother, Taquesta Graham, 28, and her mother's boyfriend, Emil Hunt, 38, they were homeless. They were living in Hunt's car or motels. Trinity was beaten, starved, and she had an infection on her foot that would make it hard for her to wear shoes or even walk. Authorities would find text messages between the couple that would prove that Trinity was being beaten for urinating on herself, and messages of Graham withholding food from her daughter. The autopsy reports concerning Trinity said that her body was scarred from head to toe, and they had to actually draw diagrams to document all the abusing. Authorities say that Hunt and Graham had killed Trinity on March 1st and put her body in a duffel bag and left it on a trail on the Hacienda Heights. The crazy part is Graham, I believe, had an ankle monitor, and she was in that area around that time. They also have footage of the couple purchasing shovels, a lighter, and that same duffel bag. 5 days after the body was found, it seems that a little girl's head was protruding out of the bag along with her torso. Someone would call it in. However, nobody knew it was Trinity as of yet. There was a drawing of the little girl that seemed to look like Trinity. On March 8th, Hunt and Graham were stopped in Hunt's black Nissan Armada. They were at the checkpoint in Hutzpah County, Texas. Graham was taken into custody on an unrelated warrant. They did not know she was a part of this just yet. Hunt was released because he didn't have any warrants on him, so he would head back to California. On March 10th, the deceased girl was identified as Trinity. The police would then find Hunt sleeping in his car by an airport. Both Hunt and Graham would give interviews. Apparently, the little girl had fell and hit her head. Both of her eyes were swollen. She had slurred speech. She had become lethargic, is what this couple had said. Graham said she did not take her to the hospital because she was afraid she might get in trouble. Now, Graham is a registered sex offender. She was arrested for trying to sex traffic a young girl. She spent 44 days in jail and she got 5 years probation in 2011. Graham was visited when Trinity was 1 from neglecting and abusing this baby. Reports had included sexual abuse allegations, but those claims was unfounded. Trinity was healthy and well nourished when she was 1 at the time with her mother, so the report says. In 2005, Emerald Hunt had starved and abused his own 3-year-old toddler. They said that this kid, this baby, was so underweight that he was in the 3rd percentile for children his age, and he had old scars that covered his body. The mother of this child, Patecia Frazier or Patricia, I'm not sure. They have it spelled Patecia. Frazier said Hunt would spank him 4 times a week and withhold food. I don't understand why a 3-year-old is being spanking in the first place, but 3 to 4 times a week, I don't understand what he's doing. They said they would give him vegetables, mixed vegetables, but meat was only given as a reward. So this little baby was really underweight. So Hunt and Graham really, their parenting skills was horrible, and this little girl was neglected. Graham even says she believes that Emil had put a pillow over Trinity's face and killed her. When they were getting ready to dump her over there on that walking trail, they both encouraged each other and said that they did nothing wrong, when in fact, they did everything wrong. And this is a case I am following. Hopefully, this couple does not be free at all. Hopefully they remain in jail. This was horrible. This little girl was only 9 years old. Her family describes her as sweet, nice, caring, full of life. I mean, she was only 9, and it was taken from her. Another case I'm following. Trinity Love Jones.